The 90s TV wasteland on cable was truly a sight to behold. Where most youngsters found their way in sports or academics, I found mine on cable. Until this day, we're still seeing the shocking results. There really was something for everybody in this bizarre pre-streaming era where networks would battle it out in different ways. Before largely taking the leap in original programming, where we saw multiple channels give it a shot, and in turn would see trends start to grow. One of my favorites, the blocks of original TV movies we were showered with in the form of strange standalone films or even sometimes limited series. Later on we got stuff like the Masters of Horror series, that is true, but first we had some real oddities, like Showtime's Roger Corman Presents, or, the underrated films that were part of Cinemax's Creature Features label from Stan Winston, where classic 1950s horror titles got edgy 90s remakes featuring directors like Larry Clark and George Wayne.
Lou Arkoff, Colleen Camp, and Stan Winston, Academy Award-winning special effects artist for Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, and Aliens, present Creature Features.
A format that had been done before, the whole remaking older properties for TV. Most notably, for me at least, was the Rebel Highway series from Showtime, where producer Lou Arkoff remade classic 1950s teen rebellion and racing films that were earlier produced by his father back in the heyday of these kind of weird road teen movies, This time, though, remade for the Showtime network. Now, some notable films from this series include Runaway Daughters, with an early performance from Paul Rudd, and Shake, Rattle, and Rock, a pseudo-rock and roll high school-inspired romp. I've covered one of the best films from the series before, the only live-action film from Ralph Bakshi ever made, The Cool and the Crazy. Check that one out next, why don't you? But my all-time favorite of the bunch was, is, and always will be Robert Rodriguez's Road Racers.
This is the TV Wasteland.
First off, let me tell you where I'm at with Robert Rodriguez these days. He obviously has many standout films. It's just, over the years, to be honest, I've become rather jaded with his stuff. I don't care about any family-friendly films from the guy. Not really. Not like this. Sorry. And especially not like this. Again, sorry. But even way before that, I started to fall out of love with Rodriguez when he started to largely go digital and really age some of his films in the process. But I always preferred the balls-to-the-wall practicality of his stuff, of all of his early films. And it was awesome to see it evolve from El Mariachi to Desperado, where we basically just got bigger budget takes on his classic stunts. And even with films like From Dusk Till Dawn that took on bombastic animatronic monster effects that were, basically largely cut from the film, all the way to The Faculty, which had ingenious use of computer effects with seamless blending of practical mediums. The guy really seemed to excel in all kinds of films, and I just could not wait to see where it went. And sad to say, I miss Robert Rodriguez. I'm not here to hate. The guy was one of my favorites for a very long time, and in a lot of ways still is. Road Racers would be a film that would lend to some of Rodriguez's later works, like Sin City, and especially The Faculty, with its body snatcher undertones. Basically, what we got was a masterclass in indie filmmaking, and for years, the film was fairly obscure, being the last of his movies to get a proper release outside of VHS. Road Racers tells the tale of Dude Delaney, who in a small 1950s town dreams of bigger things like joining a rock and roll band and not just, hanging out boning Salma Hayek or wasting time with his best friend Nixer. But first, he has to escape the small town mentalities that surround him. And more importantly, escape the vengeful local sheriff and his deviant son. Now, Road Racers is a remake, but in name only, as the original, it's about a group of teens involved in a love triangle who, race cars.
You lousy tramp! Oh! Stop it! Stop!
I'll be gunning for you from the second you get behind that wheel.
You know, it's jam-packed of car racing scenes, as good as they got, back in the day. And here in Road Racers 94, well, we get nothing to do with any love triangles, really. And there's like one car race in the whole movie, kind of. And what Rodriguez manages to do here is absolutely amazing. Taking the basic idea of 50s teenage rebellion car movies and really running with it, with an original script and everything, where again, we get another first with Road Racers, as this would be the first time Tommy Nix would collaborate with Rodriguez on the Road Racers script. Hey, and even pops up as the drummer. And really, man, with that basic setup, these guys make something special. A film that's really timeless, well-paced, and pretty damn funny. A film where any flaws can be directly attributed to the small budget, really, and especially to the film's breakneck shooting schedule, where Rodriguez managed to wrap production in just 13 days in Whittier, California and surrounding areas. He actually wrote a book about the whole shebang. I have not been able to find it, at a reasonable price at least, but I did my best to piece together some info about the production through, commentaries and interviews with the cast and whatnot. Let's just say that the filming of Road Racers proved to be both the extreme learning curve that Rodriguez needed, and more importantly, the lesson in filmmaking he probably didn't know he needed.
There goes that dude! Goddamn motherfucker!
When Showtime got the idea to remake classic Arkoff films into a modern-day, edgy, limited TV series, they knew they need some top-notch maestros in tow to pull it off. Hell, when looking at the roster, we have greats like William Friedkin, Mary Lambert, Joe Dante, Alan Arkush, John McNaughton, all directors known for pulling off relatively big projects relatively quick. Which is why the studio's first choice to direct Road Racers probably dropped out when you think about it, as they originally hired Wes Craven, who kind of butted heads with Showtime and whatnot, but it didn't matter because his passion project New Nightmare was greenlit, and he took the fuck off. And I love Wes Craven, but I also doubt he was eager to work back at this level, He had already slogged through the more lower budget romps in his career, and it's widely known that he basically did those movies because he had to. And really, I'd say Wes Craven, was kind of a reluctant genre director by this point. I'd rather see like John Carpenter take on Road Racers. But I don't know, as far as Wes Craven, I guess that's another reason why he kind of dismantled his own machine with New Nightmare. He kind of was angry at Hollywood, but I don't know. I guess we'll talk Wes Craven some other time. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments. Rodriguez has stated multiple times in the past how Road Racers is one of his personal favorite movies of his own. And, overall set experiences in general was one of his favorites as well. Even though his take-it-all-on style clashed with the film's crew, who were all union. Meaning having one guy taking on not only the writing and directing and editing and sound and lighting and second unit and fucking craft services and dolly grip, basically a guy like Rodriguez with the drive and talent to do it all, doesn't quite flow well with the strict union guidelines, but he made it work. And when it came time for Rodriguez and Nix to bring their script to life, Rodriguez was there to build it from the ground up and assemble the perfect cast. For our rebellious lead, Dude Delaney, many young and up-and-coming actors auditioned for the spot, but it was obvious to Rodriguez who to land on when a young David Arquette came into the audition and basically brought that dude attitude to the room. Already having his swagger and the cigarette in tow and whatnot, he kind of went on to do an over-exaggerated version of Dude Delaney. But after his standout performance, Rodriguez would light up the room by yelling, "That's how you do it!" And just like that, Rebel Highway history was made. At this point, Arquette was largely a TV actor, having roles in shows like The Outsiders and Parenthood, with guest spots on Blossom. But he would also have some movie roles like Where the Day Takes You, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the underrated Road Killers. So I'd say he was ready for a leading role, and even Arquette would state how he wasn't really getting any beefy roles at this point, and with Rodriguez there to guide him through it, well, Arquette would become fully immersed in the process. getting a crash course in rebel rock and roll like Hazel Atkins and Link Wray, whose influence has a lot to do with the film when you think about it. And Arquette does one hell of a job, man. He has a certain vulnerability to his rebel youth that you just don't expect, which makes the third act's violent finale all the more explosive.
Hi.
The Nixers character is clearly a nod at co-writer Tommy Nix, and it's nice to see a fellow Texan like Hawks in a role like this, being one of my favorites of his entire career. And needless to say, Hawks would probably have the most quote-unquote successful career of all the cast. And while he's had a few starring or co-starring roles, he's largely a character actor at heart, and in my opinion, that's where an actor of his caliber really should exist. And for this early on in Hawks' career to have what's essentially a co-lead with a lot of meaning behind it, with Nixer, we get the Invasions of the Body Snatchers crossover.
It's not a saucer movie. It's a warning.
All through this weird, wiry, hyperactive, yet very loyal best friend.
Rock and roll. That music is turning the kids into a bunch of sex-hungry, beer-drinking, road-racing werewolves.
As the film's antagonist, we get the immortal William Sadler. Sadler and Hawks would both appear in Freak the year before, where they would first meet due to their mutual friend Alex Winter. In Sarge's case, we get hints that he's had a long-standing beef with Dude Delaney's father, who he claims to have run out of town, and uses his son Teddy Leather and his goons to basically put Dude out of business. Here, Teddy Leather being played by Jason Wiles, who had a starring role already in the film Windrunner, but has largely been a side character in most films following, although he was in some really great stuff. In fact, on set of Road Racers, he found out he landed a role in Higher Learning, which is pretty sweet. Along with the inclusion of Hayek, other relationships of sorts were started on Road Racers. Rodriguez would have musician Johnny Reno portray the lead singer of the Rumblers, a local band trying to make it big, who are in dire need of a guitarist. Something Dude, highly considers himself, basically to get, Donna out of town, and, he's kind of reluctant about that whole thing. He just wants to rock and roll. In fact, Dude Delaney may have just discovered distorted guitar. But the biggest reason to get out of town is probably to escape Sarge and his son Teddy Leather. Basically, Donna sets up this whole audition with the band and insists that Dude runs away from the problem.
I ain't gonna run. Not from Teddy. Not from his crooked father. Not from anybody.
Throughout the plot line, though, we get some hot-ass performances and original music from Johnny Reno, who had previously played in a band with Rodriguez. Reno would, he'd go on to work multiple times with Rodriguez in the future, most notably on Planet Terror and Sin City. And yet another landmark of the film would be the start of a long-lasting working relationship between Salma Hayek and Robert Rodriguez. Hayek, who was making her American English-speaking feature film debut, it's obvious how talented she was, even this early on. Although her character here of Donna is a little underdeveloped, if I may say so. But she's so innocent and really wants the best for her Dude.
Link Ray's cool.
Link Ray. Is he popular?
No. That's why it's cool.
And when it comes to the soundtrack, Rodriguez knew legendary rebel guitarist Link Wray would be a huge part of it, and was able to snag the music relatively cheap, as the rockabilly aesthetic, especially of the Link Wray variety, well, it wasn't really popular at the time. And when this came up in a discussion with his friend Quentin Tarantino, well, he decided to take advantage of the music rates for his next film, Pulp Fiction. Needless to say, that put Link Wray back on the map and into the zeitgeist. His music ain't so cheap these days, and it can be heard fairly often. This would also be the first appearance of the classic 1956 Chevy Bel Air, featured here and there in Rodriguez films. And I remember seeing some behind the scenes footage, or a film school or something from his house, and he actually had the fender of this car on his wall, along with Dude's guitar. Rodriguez did indeed shoot the film at a breakneck pace. even setting a personal record for camera setups in one day. He claims he hasn't beat it since. But although the film was shot in 13 days, it wasn't a consecutive shoot, as in the middle of filming, the Northridge earthquake hit California and halted production for an entire day. And upon returning to the set, the cast and crew found themselves dealing with aftershocks in a roller rink, making that scene all the more memorable. It was this scene that stuck in my mind throughout the years and made me a lifelong fan of Hazel Atkins, I tell you what. Yet for years I wasn't able to track the movie down. Like, I would tell people about it, and they'd have no idea, even after Rodriguez hit it big. And he stated himself how he always wanted it to be released, but, it was a TV movie, and the rights issues kind of made it hard to do. Then when they got the okay, it was all about timing, wanting to release it, in addition with a bigger theatrical release from Rodriguez, like Sin City or something. But it just never happened, until it was quietly released on DVD and Blu-ray, featuring a Sin City-esque cover, and awesome special features like a film school and commentary and whatnot. I highly recommend it. And the rights issues make sense. I mean, over the years, the films have been released sporadically, the Rebel Highway series, so some better known and some still very rare and expensive. For instance, Confessions of a Sorority Girl got heavy play on cable, mainly due to Alyssa Milano and the film's sexual nature. And today, the film, along with some others, can be rented right here on YouTube. Shake, Rattle, and Rock got a pretty wide release as far as physical media goes, mainly due to Renee Zellweger's stardom. But aside from a run of VHS early on, most of these movies are still a bitch to track down. Again, the film really has a kick-ass soundtrack. This may have been the first time Hazel Atkins was featured in a film, and to this day we're all still doing the hunch. And it's pretty often that we hear Link Wray's rumble almost at every turn. That's what it feels like. And aside from original music from Johnny Reno, we also got a pretty sweet cover from Charlie Sexton, who does a version of Gene Vincent's Ride with the Devil. And if I may say, he does it justice. That's another thing that happened to coincide with the series release, a compilation album featuring classic 50s tunes, covered by 90s artists. Every movie featuring their own track. We got songs from the Smithereens, Iggy Pop, Babes in Toyland, Los Lobos, Sheryl Crow, what the fuck? And if you get the album on CD, it says from the Rebel Highway series. But if you order it on vinyl, you see the original title of the series. This title was even featured in early promo material, and overseas, I think. In fact, that may have been the title overseas. I don't know. There was some other strange things happening here. In early trailers, there was just some wrong information. For instance, in one of the early trailers for Road Racers, they call Salma Hayek Helen Schaefer for some reason.
Join David Arquette, Helen Shaver, and William Sadler as 50s cool meets 90s style in a small town heading for a big showdown. Road Racers.
Road Racers is easily the best of the entire series. Something I think even Showtime noticed, as Road Racers was the premiere film, and overall is building a slow but steady fan base as time goes on. Everybody who worked on the film had a blast, and recalls it being among the best experiences of their career. Even classic actor Kevin McCarthy, he said he had a great time. Kevin McCarthy actually didn't see the film for years until a fan sent it to him, much to his delight. I mean, how badass is that? Long live Kevin McCarthy.
I guess you could call me Miles.
Well, thanks a lot, Miles.
And the film was critically well received. Even if critics had an issue, with the budget or script, they all praised the directing. And in many ways, this would be Rodriguez's last raw, all-on-camera, balls-to-the-wall film. I mean, I guess Desperado technically fits this too, although there we're talking about a major studio production. As largely after Road Racers, Rodriguez's film utilized things like animatronics, over-the-top explosions, visual effects, over-the-top explosions, horrible green screen, over-the-top explosions, and special effects that did or didn't age well. I don't know. And even when the effects and script are tighter, like in films like Planet Terror, I still feel the digital effects again, made these movies age like ass. And I kind of think, I just checked out at some point around then. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy nearly all of his films, but I just avoid some now. And I, for one, wish he would go back to his roots at some point, but hey, at least we still have road racers. So while I was making this video, ironically, the video store I grew up with in my hometown, they put a post up, and it turns out the owner was giving away a box of tapes that she's had lying around since 1994, apparently. In some of those boxes, it turned out to be, were some of the Rebel Highway series on VHS in demo tape form. I got a demo tape of Girls in Prison. Look at that beauty. And I got a demo tape of Road Racers to go along with my other demo tape of Road Racers I already had. And there was plenty of other good stuff in there, of course. We got a copy of Rumpelstiltskin, a nice demo copy that opens up. And we even got an advanced copy of the brand new Blue Beetle movie with a lenticular cover and everything. Check it out. I highly recommend the entire Rebel Highway series. They're not all great, but they sure are worth a watch. Although, they're a little hard to find. The best you can do is get the Movies for the Man Cave 8-film DVD set, which features 5 of the films. Movies like Runaway Daughters, Shake, Rattle, and Rock, Girls in Prison, and Road Racers, and, a few others. But some of the films are available to rent on YouTube and whatnot, and I'm sure eventually I'll get around to covering all of them. I am sure. I've already done Cool and the Crazy. Check that one out. Are you a fan of any of this stuff? Like Roger Corman Presents or like the Creature features? Any of this kind of stuff? Let me know down in the comments because I would love to talk about all those movies. Please like and subscribe right now. Seriously, right now, like this video. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Do it. And if you are subscribed already, say hi. Until next time, staunch gang.
This is the TV Wasteland.
Be sure to subscribe.